Good afternoon. எல்லாரும் சாப்பிட்டீங்களா சாப்பிடலையா? So கொஞ்சம் louder good afternoon சொல்லலாம்ல? So what did you learn from this? When I said good afternoon, there was a very soft good afternoon. When I said say it loudly, you were saying it loudly. Why did you do that? Because I asked you to. So I was telling you something and you were listening, right? So most of it today, what I am going to address today is about how we express ourselves and how it is understood, right? Mainly with respect to conflict resolution. If a conflict na, even at home, I'm sure when your mother says get up at 5 o'clock, you say no, I can't. That itself is a conflict. I like chocolates, I'm not supposed to eat, I go to the fridge and take it. That itself is a conflict with myself, right? But when we hear the word conflict, what happens? Enamo padarna odayra madri irukku, right? Or there is some, because already there is an impression in our brain that it is something negative or something which you don't like. There are some words which you hear, you feel, I don't like this, right? Some of them you feel, when you like chocolates and you hear about chocolates, your face automatically goes into a smile. Why does that happen? Because apparently there is something called mirror neurons in our brain. How many of you have heard the story of a man who was selling caps and was sitting under the tree and a monkey took the cap and went away? And he tried to get it, he couldn't. So he was just doing this and finally the monkey threw down the cap. Why did it do it? Because the monkey saw him throwing the cap, then decided monkey also had to repeat it. Most of the time we are only repeating without understanding what we are doing. So what we are going to talk about it, why at all there are differences? Mostly because we are individuals, we have our own likes and dislikes, we have certain, what shall I say, a belief about certain things, we have certain narratives or stories. For example, after you did badly in your exam and you go back home and your mother or father asks you why didn't you get 100 marks in maths, what do you say? You say teacher didn't mark all the questions, right? Or you say it was a wrong question paper. Why do you do that? Because you want to justify yourself. So most of the time we have stories about situations. So it can be because of the way we are, it can be because of how we look at things, we think we don't like it. So we are often threatened. There is an anxiety, ayyo idu nadandrume, ayyo idu hurt pannume. Adanaliye we react to most of the things. Do we really look? Do we really hear? No, we don't. So the first thing we have to keep in mind is, when I say mind, let us see what is mind. We all have a brain which is up here inside the skull. That is just an organ. But how, like in the computer, how the processing is done is by the mind. So normally the mind is made up of first memory. How do we know that fire is hot? The first time we put our hand, we touch it, we feel the heat. After some time it's there in the brain. So when you go near a flame, you automatically think it's going to burn you, so you keep away. So there's always memory there. Memory which comes in immediately. The other is, as I told you, there are images. Oh, this teacher is so bad. This person is so bad. So we don't talk normally with them. Why? Because we have had a past experience. So there is a memory. Second is these images. Third is, sometimes there is a lot what we call as nescience. We really don't have proper information about the whole thing. We are ignorant and we tend to think that this is what is right. And because of that, that can also happen. And the last is desire. So MIND, we have to remember, is memory, image, nescience and desire. When we want something so badly, we don't think of anything else. Whether we need it or not, we think we have to achieve it. And so it's very important to remember that most of our thinking is based on how we process it. And this processing is what gets communicated as expressions. In English, the ordinary word used is communication. Communication means, like here, I am talking and you are listening. So normally they say there is a speaker and there is a listener, and in between there is a message being conveyed. But in Indian logic, what is understood as communication is actually termed as VAC, V-A-C. That means sound. So it presumes there must be a speaker, there must be an intention, there must be a willingness to listen. If I'm going to talk to the wall, if none of you are here and I'm just going to talk to an empty hall, I'm not communicating, I'm not doing anything. But if there are people here who are listening, who are interested in the subject, who understand something, see, at the end of this 15 minutes, unless you have got something from this, there's no point in my talking at all. So VAC is where there is what shall I say? There is an intention for me to give you something of value, and you also want to listen to it and get something from here. So the first, we have to have basic virtues. That means, that is divided into 4 concepts here. The Yoga Sutra talks about it as Maitri. Maitri is friendliness. Unless you have friends, you won't have happiness. You won't be able to really share information. So the basic thing is, we have to cultivate the feeling of Maitriness if we want to properly communicate. That means there must be an unconditional friendliness both to myself and to the other. Only if I like myself, I will like others. If I don't like myself, I won't like others. See, if I don't like the way I dress, I'm not going to be comfortable talking in a group. So it's very, very important that I have to like myself, and if I like myself, naturally there will be a sense of joy which will permeate to others, and others also will be interested in talking to me. The second is what they call as Karuna. Karuna generally in English is called as compassion. See, the whole process in Indian logic is about experiencing that feeling. Maitri, friendship, is just friendship. But when you say Maitri, then it is the joy in being a friend to somebody, in being a friend to myself. Similarly, when you say Karuna, it is when I care for the other person, when I understand that how I would be bothered by suffering. I would be bothered by the suffering of another person. So what if both of you are walking, you and your friend are walking, and suddenly your friend trips and falls down and hurts himself or herself? What do? You say, oh, what happened to you? If it's not your friend, you're not going to do it. But why are you doing that? Because hurt means there is some problem. There is some pain. So you don't want, and you know what is pain. So you don't want your friend to suffer that pain. So the first thing that we have to cultivate is friendliness. The second thing we have to cultivate is Karuna. The third, we have what they call as Mudita, is happiness. When somebody is happy, you're running a race, say, and your friend comes first and you come second, you must still be happy. Oh, I didn't come first, so how can I be happy for this person? So the third is Mudita, and the fourth is what is called as Upeksha. That is, whatever happens, we are unperturbed. Oh, I wanted to come first, I didn't come first. I wanted to strike a goal, I didn't strike a goal, but I did my best. It's very, very important, because today in the competitive world, we feel, and our parents expect us to come first, or we have a goal to reach. So what happens is, we think that if we haven't achieved it, we are a loser. No, we are not a loser. What we are doing is living together. We are trying to share the joy of the other person, share the suffering of the other person, and understanding whatever is happening between everyone. And for that, we have to understand certain basic what they call as gunas. See, either you can be very agitated or you can be not bothered at all, let's say. So they call it as Rajas and Tamas. Rajas is mainly because I hate this person, so I'm perturbed. I'm blaming this person, I'm envious of this person. What shall I say? There is a lot of dishonesty. I'm not honest with this person. So what happens is, something is burning inside me. I'm not the normal person. So there also it is an action which doesn't help the situation at all. When it is tamas, what happens? Mostly I'm afraid, I'm confused, there is a lot of grief, there is depression. So what happens is, at that point I don't want to react at all. So today there is something called non-violent communication. One Marshall has written a book, and he says it's very important to observe. First thing is, you have to observe what is happening around us. Be very conscious of what is happening. Then understand the feelings. Only if you observe and understand the feelings, you will understand the needs of the other person. I'm sure most of you would have seen your parents forcing you to eat something when you don't want to eat something. Or you may be full and still the host is asking you to eat a lot and you don't feel like swallowing that food. So they may be thinking that it is good for you, but you don't feel comfortable about it. So understanding the needs of that person or understanding what is necessary in that situation is also very, very important. And after this, if we are able to find out how we can express what is correct, we also have to have a feedback. So today, what we have to understand is that when we are communicating, we have to understand what is the kind of approach this person has, whether it is rajasic or tamasic, whether they are very active or whether they are totally inactive. And if it is so, we have to understand what kind of communication has to be done. Now, there is one story in the Mahabharata where one very pretty ascetic went to the court of King Janaka. And because she is a very pretty woman, the king didn't think that she was a very well-read person or a very wise woman, and only saw her beauty and said, "Oh, this pretty woman, you have come into my court." So he spoke very disparagingly to her. So immediately she told him what is good communication, what is a way to correctly express yourself. And that is a learning, I think, which all of us have to learn. She says, whatever you want to convey in any situation, you have to be very firm. You must be clear. You must be unambiguous. It must be brief. It must be pleasant. It must not be too bombastic. It must be honest. Now, when we talk about honesty, what does that mean? Honesty is not telling just the truth. Honesty is understanding the facts, understanding what is necessary in the situation and making it very clear. So it is very, very important to understand that in communication, there are emotions, there are situations. So how you communicate that or how you are able to express yourself is very, very important. And so when you are saying that you have to be honest, it is not just about truth, it is also understanding the context. So when we are talking about all this, what are we saying? You're all listening, I know, but how much will you be able to understand? I don't know. Why? Because when I am talking, what happens is I have an idea. That is what is in my head. First, I say, okay, these are students. Now I'm going to tell them something. So automatically what happens is I get a sort of a visualization of what I'm going to tell you. I feel, and there is a sort of impulse to speak. Okay, I must speak this to them. So what happens is the first thing is what they say, what they call as pashyanti, what is apparent. There is an impulse to speak, there is a visualization, and so it is mostly intellectual only. But the next is when it forms into an image. Okay, these are the words I'm going to say. This is all automatic. But there are 3 stages in this. And that is the second stage where what happens is the thought takes a shape and I'm able to experience that. So it's still in the mind, but it hasn't come out. That is why I said brain is an organ, whereas mind is the processor. So this processing happens there when I say, okay, this is how I'm going to express this. When I'm angry, I may not be able to think about all this, I may be expressing it. But when I'm in a calm state of mind, I will be able to say, how am I going to put these thoughts together and how am I going to talk about it? And it's the third stage where it is expressed, what I am doing now. So I've already thought about it and I'm giving you in words that you will be able to understand. So what happens is at this point, you hear the sounds. If you know English, you will understand it. If I'm talking in Urdu here, will you be able to understand it? No. So you must be in the same wavelength. You must be able to understand and you must be able to listen to me. So the first thing you have to understand is that the speaker and the listener must be on the same wavelength. You may be sent here to listen for 2 hours, but unless you are willing to listen, you won't be able to listen. You can look at your cell phone, you can draw, you can look at the roof. But if you want to listen, what will you do? You will listen, right? So there must be an intention to listen and you must be on the same wavelength. If I'm going to take a big book and start talking in a very high level, you may not be able to understand also. If I talk in a language that you don't understand, you may not be able to understand. So first thing is that both the speaker and the listener must be on the same level. The second is, I am putting certain ideas into words, which when you know the language, you are able to understand. So what happens is, it's just like somebody is talking from somewhere and you listen to it on the cell phone. What happens? Through the waves, sound waves, you are getting it. So there is a coding and decoding here. That must be in a way, if I use some phrases or if I use some words which you don't understand, or you are liable to understand it in a different way. For example, I'll tell you, because I'm a mediator and I train people as mediators. I've gone around India. In Orissa, when we were training, when we do mediation, we say we will have all the parties together and we will discuss. We will also have parties individually and talk to them, and for that the term used is caucus. So when we use this term, the people there got very upset. They said, don't use that word. Apparently in Oriya, caucus is a very bad word. You should not say that in public. I realized that only when I went there. So sometimes communication can be like that. And also in Orissa, I don't know how many of you have been in North India. Just like a guest is given a cup of water, a glass of water when they enter the house, they give pan because everybody eats pan there continuously. So they said, when we say the mediator should not accept gifts or do something, they said, no, nobody will talk to us. Anywhere you go, unless you give pan, they won't talk. So we said, let's have a box of pan then and give to everyone. So culturally also there are certain significances. So we have to understand that we not only do we have to be on the same wavelength, we should understand that there is a contextual experiencing of the whole thing. And we should also understand how this coding and decoding is done. More importantly, in communication, there is a relationship. When you're walking on Mount Road, say, can you just tap somebody and talk to them? Will they listen? You may talk, but will they listen? So it's very, very important to understand the relationship between the parties for a proper communication. And more important is, there must be some mutuality, in the sense, we must have a common interest. See, why does your teacher take the time to teach you a subject? Because they are supposed to teach you, and they want to put it in a way that you will understand, and you are in the class to learn that subject, and you are listening to it to understand the subject. So unless there is a sort of a mutual benefit to both, there won't be any listening at all. So there must be some mutuality to it. And so it's very, very important to understand that in a communication today, what is called as Sadarnikaran model, it is very, very important to have both the speaker and listener on the same plane. You must be in the mood to listen. Post lunch it is very difficult, I know that. You must be in the mood to listen. And the expressions used have to be understood. There must be a channel, there must be a message. When I say channel, okay, now you're listening to this through the mic. Maybe the front row can hear me. At the back you cannot hear me without the mic. So if I'm going to write, if I'm going to send an email, because today it's very, very important. I read somewhere that the font size that you used in an email, the color that you use in the font communicates something. So today we have to be very careful about the font size, about the color when some message is sent by email. The text, what kind of language that you use in the text, all that is very, very important. We also have to understand what are the barriers. Sometimes like here, the mic sound can become more and you may not be able to hear, or it may not work at all. So there may be various barriers also to understanding. Not only the sound, but even the expression. That also is very important. Most important is feedback. So when we talk about communication, what we have to understand is that in the sense that there must be a self-awareness. See, even in a class, when you don't understand something and you're going to ask your teacher about what it is, you will have to be aware of how you would like to put it across to this teacher. You cannot say, I don't understand this, or this was not made clear. You have to go and say, oh, this was spoken about, but I would like a little more clarification on that to make me understand it better. So it's a different how shall I say, way of putting it across. But for that, first you have to understand how much you know or how much you want to know. And unless that self-awareness is there, there cannot be a proper communication at all. More importantly, we have to understand, as I said, when we understand ourselves, we have to be present to the situation. Unless, if I'm going to hide behind a group of people and then shout from the end of it, nobody will understand who I am. So I have to understand that I must be confident about myself. I must be confident about what I want to convey. I must be able to say, okay, this is my viewpoint. So unless that presence is established, there cannot be a proper communication at all. The next is, when we say honesty, there's authenticity also. Any information that is passed, because today it's a big problem, because anyone can pass any message through social media, and all sorts of harm come out because of that. So we have to be very careful that whatever is communicated, even forwarding a message by text, is it a reliable source? Is it something that has to be forwarded? So that also, authenticity also has to be there. Otherwise people won't believe us. For the first message or second, they may say okay, but after the third, they'll say, oh, this person is just forwarding something, and how do we believe that? So we have to be very careful about authenticity. Next is what we call as congruent, or it has to be in a proper form. It must be uniform. And most important is that when you say, when I am saying a sentence, say, what am I doing? When I am saying a sentence, there is a group of words. If I am going to say, I am going to Delhi on 20th April, you will understand. But if I say, Delhi, I am 20th, how will you understand? So there must be a sequence to the words, there must be a necessity for the words to be expressed, and then there must be an intention to express it, and the message must be understandable. That is how it will become a proper communication. So one of the earlier texts we have is called as Vakyapadya by Bhartrhari, and he says, reasoning is based on the power of words. So we have to understand the power of the words. And meaning is on how we externalize. See, depending on the situation, even in warm weather, if now we are sitting in an AC hall, imagine we are sitting in the portico or somewhere here, it's so warm. You may not listen to all this, or some word that is said will take a different meaning because of the weather conditions. Now, what we have to understand is, when we say we should be conscious of the externalization, because generally we don't take responsibility for whatever we are doing or whatever we are saying. We always blame other people. So anything that is said, we try to say, oh, this person did it or that happened. So we have to understand how much of the meaning is dependent on externalization. And more importantly, we have to understand that unless we understand the whole message in the full context, we just take bits and pieces, means it's like putting bits and pieces together, broken pieces together, and assembling it. We have to listen to the whole thing. We have to understand what is not said, what is attempted to be said, and what do the words convey. Only then there can be a proper understanding of the whole thing. So in short, what I want to say is, conflict is natural. Conflict is everywhere. Conflict is not something negative. So when we talk about resolution, and especially in the context of communication, what we have to understand is that there must be a willingness to convey what has to be conveyed. There must be a willingness to listen. People should understand the language, the contents, the context, be able to relate. There must be a relationship which will depend on what is being communicated, so that it has meaning. And more than anything else, it is important to understand that communication is not just about words. It is about establishing a connection between two people. It is not, actually I read something saying that the sound is something which makes a speaker visible. So it's very, very important to understand that when we talk, we don't talk unnecessarily, don't use words that that are not relevant to us or not have much meaning for us, but be brief, be very clear, be very sensible, and use that opportunity to convey something to the other person when you have something to share. I hope I had something to share. Thank you.